Hello and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. Before we get into anything at all, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. You know, Nathan, I was over in Rio over the weekend, and
hmm
I was with my partner who is of age and the same age as me, thankfully.
What
And
what what a weird thing that you have to point out.
so I made sure to bring them with me, and I said like, look at them. Don't they look great? And anyway, I ran into somebody else who also had a partner that was an appropriate age,
Okay.
and they were like, "Hey, like you love this Rio landscape?" And I said, "Yeah, it looks really pretty." And they're like, I love to just lay on the beach and listen to my favorite podcast is Patreon over at
hmm
Drive and Double Feature Podcast. And I really love it so much because it's only $5 a month. It's got fun conversations, fun games. I just I don't even need to go on vacation because it's like I'm going to like a different place each time I listen to it. And I said, "Oh, well, that's really something." And they said, "I really wish Ryan and Nathan knew how much I appreciate their podcast." And I said, "I think they know."
Oh, we know.
Yeah. But anyway, only $5 a month doesn't affect any regular content. Today, we are talking about 1984's Blame It on Rio, directed by the legendary Stanley Donen.
Oh, yes. I love Mr. Donen.
And I mean, he's
He has an
directed,
honorary Oscar.
he's got a lot of hits under his belt. I mean, he's directed Charade, Sing in the Rain, Funny Faces, Seven
hmm
Brides for Seven Brothers. I mean, he's
I
a heavy hitter. And
I know it's really early to say this. I cannot believe that. Whenever I clicked on the director of this movie and saw, oh yeah, this guy made Singing in the Rain, one of the best movies ever made. I was just like, what a way to ruin your career. I don't know, crazy.
it is unbelievable that this is his final theatrical movie. He did make one more TV movie after this, but theatrically, this is his final movie. And what I want to go out on. This movie, Blame It on Rio, is actually based off of a French movie at the time. So this is not this is not an original idea, if you can believe it or not, but
Mhm.
it's very much very gross idea. I want to say that right out the gate from this episode, this movie is very disgusting and it's just very like
Yeah,
gross, and I'm very not a great watch. So
no.
if there's something in there you don't want to hear about, like uh men being with women that are like not of age, then this is not a movie to watch. So I just want to put that out very early.
Yes.
Um, but anyway, this movie is about Michael Caine, and he goes with his best friend and their two daughters to Rio for a little vacation. And you think like, oh, like because Michael Caine's had some marital problems at home. His wife, who basically was just like, I'm ready to leave you. I'm going to go to have my own little vacation because I'm not going to come to Rio with you. And then his best friend, who's bringing with them, is also having marital problems because him and his wife just divorced.
hmm
So during all this is like Michael Caine is kind of like really down on himself and everything. And he's very much just like, I am just so depressed right now. And even though I'm like in one of the most beautiful place in the world. And during this whole time, it already starts out like very sexual because like when they go to Rio, they go to the beach and both daughters, one played by Michelle Johnson, who's Jennifer in the movie, and Demi Moore is also in this movie as Michael
hmm
Caine's daughter, and they are both just topless in front of their dad. Like they're just like, loosen up. This is how it is in Rio. Like,
Uh-huh.
and they're just like, this is not appropriate. And they're just like, Dad, lighten up. It's okay. And
I
I'm
just
I'm
have
just
my
like,
boobs out. Come on.
I would like like right away, I would have been like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, right.
hey,
Yeah,
like be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
yeah, why
Like,
why are you doing this in front of your dad? And well, we learn for Michelle Johnson, it's because she has a Huge crush on Michael Caine and always has. Oh, I should say the other father is Joseph. Is do you say Joseph Baloney?
Joseph Bologna, I mean,
I don't know. Which I was like, who is this guy? It's Adam Sandler's dad from Big Daddy.
oh, okay. And
Uh-huh.
he was also been in like a couple other movies I know,
Yeah, yeah, he's in other stuff too.
but
But that's what I remember him from.
yeah, and I mean like he's the main girl's dad, Jennifer, and he's just kind of like I don't he doesn't really play like a huge big role in the first half of the movie where he's pretty much
Mhm.
just like it's like no, like if I told my daughter if she's gonna have sex, she has to get my permission to have sex before she meets a guy, which is also really odd.
Yeah.
And then Demi Moore is in this movie, and she's just kind of there,
Yeah, she's a throwaway character.
like she's very upset that her dad is hooking up with like this girl, hooking up with Jennifer, because that's what happens in this movie is that Michael Caine and Jennifer end up having like this really long affair during this trip, and to be more. Do you not notice like there was that one weird line where she like Jennifer had said to be more where she's like, "I'm in love with your dad," and she said something like "me too" or like I had a crush on him too or something weird.
Something like that. I
Yeah,
remember that scene.
and I was just like, okay, and they just kind of gloss over that. I'm like, maybe they meant like she lost respect for him and she's not like in love with her dad, but she doesn't love her dad anymore. Maybe that's what they meant. That's
Maybe. Uh,
but that
I also have to say, I love Michael Caine. Don't get me wrong, and maybe I'm not the target audience here, but is Michael Caine really that like swoon worthy in this movie? He's got a really goofy haircut. Like they treat him like he's like dashing. This old dad is a dashing man.
Well, I mean, Michael Caine was that star of that one movie, Alfie, where he was kind
Yeah,
of like a heartthrob type of a character. So this is kind of like
it's
if that
20 years
character,
later though, right?
yeah, it's 20 years after that. So it's like him kind of losing his edge a little bit. But I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, I guess it could be she just really likes older men or something.
Yeah, maybe. Oh,
But
and it is important to say how old she actually was while they filmed this movie. She was 17, and reading this, they went to court and they got the legal permission to shoot nude scenes with her, which I think is disgusting. That is absolutely horrible because that's just like a gimmick. And this movie made $18 million, by the way. It's literally a gimmick so people could see that, I think. And it was legally okay because it was art. They could have easily just hired an 18-year-old and been like, because like, I mean, movies about like underage love and stuff, that's been done before, but you don't have to force a young person to be nude. Either hire a young person with no nudity or get an 18-year-old and have them play younger or something. This is just gross.
yeah, well, I mean, this was her very first. This was her debut role. Like they got like her as like a complete unknown. Because I believe they said they saw her like in a fashion magazine or
Hmm.
something like that, but they wanted somebody like that and that was basically willing to do nudity and um even like during like reading about like some of the like how sleazy like the production was or like even
Really?
Stanley Donen like was just kind of like I didn't see what the big deal was about nudity like just or even like the main girl Michelle Johnson basically just being like I didn't, I was a girl and I didn't realize there was going to be a bunch of naked men just staring at me, or not naked men, a bunch
Oh
of
my
people,
God. Come to
a
find
bunch,
out they were naked.
a bunch of people staring at her naked, and
Yeah. Literally on the beach full of people.
and so in the movie, it's very much that Michael Caine is not. He doesn't try to come on to her because she's very much like the aggressor of the whole thing where she's just like
Hmm.
like sleep with me like I want to sleep with you, I want to have sex with you, that like really bad.
Hmm.
And at first he's just like no, no, we can't do this, this is unacceptable, and then but she doesn't really have to try that hard because like when she like gets him alone, he's just like, all right, fine, like let's do it type of thing.
Let's just get it over with.
And at first, they have sex and it's very much like Michael Caine's like that was a one and done, like this is never gonna happen again.
hmm
And the whole time she's just like, when are we gonna do it again? Where are we gonna like let's keep this
hmm
going? And eventually Michael Caine does start to have feelings for her and it starts developing into like a little relationship. And I'm trying to decide if they're like thought these moments were like really tender and sweet or whatever, because there's some moments where it was like there was a scene with them like laying in the hammock and he's like, "Oh, I remember the first time I ever saw you naked. Like you were a little baby getting baptized and I asked I asked your mother if I could be the first one to kiss your bottom or something like that." And I'm just like, and then she's just like, "Ooh, you're just driving a little baby wild." And it's just like, ugh, like
Yeah,
I'm just,
absolutely horrifying stuff here.
yeah, I remember just like I remember having like a look of disgust on my face, just like, ugh, like that's so nasty. And
Well,
just
I just can't believe that like people wrote that, like that somebody wrote that, and because I agree, I think it's sincere. I mean, how else are you gonna write that? That's like a weird, just a weird line. So they sincerely thought that that was like, oh, that's really beautiful. Like it's like they read Lolita and like we're like, oh, what a great love
what a
story.
great story that was.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I mean, like I was just kind of like really put off by the whole thing. And now granted, if there despite how horrible the subject matter was, like I was because this movie touts itself as being a comedy.
Yes.
I even if you take out all the horrible themes of this movie, like it's not a funny movie either. It's really not funny.
Yeah, it's just like also just a poorly put together movie. None of the jokes land. There's some really odd choices. I know we were getting into the comedy, but I got to bring up the song that's really garbage. The Blame It on Rio song. It's like, blame it on Rio. Or like, it's like, I might not be handsome. Or just like some garbage the whole time that plays. Um, but yeah, just like it's weird. It's just like a lot of jokes that don't work. And I don't know if it's because it's like a lost in translation thing. Because late in the movie, her dad finds out and they end up fighting for the rest of the movie. And there's like a lot of scenes with them wrestling. Like they're just like throwing each other around and hitting each other. And I think it's supposed to be funny, but I never once was like, wow, this is hilarious. They're
Well, I
wrestling.
mean, well, there's like the one scene where he like shows up and he's
hmm
like, "Oh, I have to share a bed with you now." So it's like the two dads sharing a bed and
Uh-huh.
they end up wrestling on the bed because they hate each other and one of them gets on top of the other one and like the maid walks in and she's just like, "Oh my," like it looks like they're having
Yeah.
sex or whatever. It's like, "Oh my." And just
hmm
like walk, I mean, I'm like, so I guess that's supposed to be funny. There's like multiple scenes where like Michael Caine is very nervous where he's trying not to show that he has a thing with Jennifer going and Jennifer's just kind of like flirting with him or like rubbing his back or kissing him and it's just like, what are you doing? We can't do this. It's just or like there's this other scene too where he's trying to convince her like I'm not worth falling in love with. I am really old, so
hmm
you should date somebody more in your age range.
hmm
And she's just like, "Well, I'll show you." And she like goes and like hangs out with like another guy and like trying to like make Michael Caine jealous type of thing. And he's just
hmm
like, at first he's just like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." And then she ends up coming back to him and she's just like, "Oh, I'm glad you came back."
Yeah, so it's honestly just like you said, just gross. It's stuff like that that's just like I don't know. The romance just doesn't work because I feel like the key piece of this, right, would be that like we at least understood this romance, but we know that Michael Caine should just know better. He should know, just like tell her, no, don't do it. There is one funny setup, and I think there is like something kind of funny with the idea that it's really messed up where her dad finds out and then he lies to him, and he goes and investigates for him to find out who is sleeping with his daughter. And so he has to lie to him for a good chunk of the movie. My only problem with that, that's a trope that's done a million times in movies, the idea of like you're getting lied to and you know that eventually he's going to find out. So
Oh
there's
yeah.
no thrill to that.
Or like his dad, or like Jennifer's dad being like, I can't believe she's sleeping with somebody. She promised she'd tell me before she did it.
Hmm.
And then he was like going to Michael Caine being like, was it he's like you? And he's like, what? He's like, she really trusts you. You should go have a date with her tonight. And it's just like, okay. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's like something funny about that, but when you put in the context that she's 17, I don't know. That makes it a little gross. Well, she's is she 17 in this movie or is she playing younger than that?
I think she said, I don't think I don't remember them saying their ages, honestly,
Yeah, I
but
don't think they say it. So maybe she's playing 18 and just for fun they got a 17-year-old to play it.
who knows?
No,
Uh,
that's not what they're going for because they are protective dads. Um, but no one cares about Demi. Demi's over here like hang gliding, doing her own thing. She gets to have her own fun vacation.
yeah, she doesn't do anything in this movie hardly.
So boring.
She just is like, looks very disapprovingly at her dad. Um, and then what happens is that eventually, um, Demi Moore ends up calling her mother, Michael Caine's wife, which is
Hmm.
played by Valerie Harper, or Rhoda from that series, and was like, "You need to come down here," and like his daddy's going crazy or whatever.
Hmm.
And she comes down there, and she finds out that Michael Caine was having an affair with Jennifer, and eventually it's come to light that her and Michael Caine's friend like had been having this really long affair between the two of them. That's which is why Michael Caine's friend or Jennifer's dad ended up getting a divorce from his wife.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes almost like the idea is like, oh, everybody did something wrong here.
Yeah, so nobody's at fault. Like it's
Yeah.
all okay because we all did something bad.
Even though if you heard Michael Caine was sleeping with an underage girl, wouldn't it be like, oh, well, that's grounds to call the police? But
Well,
no, it's
yeah,
like, oh, I cheated. I cheated on you with an adult man. Oh, I guess that the child sex is not a big deal. Okay, that whatever. It negates it. No, it
yeah,
doesn't.
no, it's uh, it's very much very much kind of like just played for laughs and played as
Hmm.
like not I mean they're mad at each other for hooking up, and even like Michael Caine's wife is like really pissed at Jennifer for hooking up with Michael Caine during this movie,
Yes.
but it's never like treated like that was wrong or immoral. It's more just like you guys shouldn't have done that type of thing. Not like it was immoral, more like that's a real jerk move to do that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Eh,
Wow. That sucked, dude.
yeah.
Don't.
But then in this movie takes like a weird turn where like Jennifer has like commits like attempts suicide by taking a
Oh my
bunch of
God.
uh
I forgot that happened.
taking a bunch of morning after pills and like birth control pills like to basically die, and they're like she's fine, okay, she's fine. And throughout this whole deal, she ends up Michael Caine and Jennifer end up not being together because she's just like, oh, I met somebody young at the hospital and I'm gonna just hang out with him for the rest of the summer.
Hmm.
And and then Michael Caine ends up going back. One thing they do in this movie, which I'm not really sure why they did it because it never has a payoff, is they do like a talking head segment with Michael Caine,
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It's almost set up like a documentary, right? Where like Michael Caine and his
Jennifer.
girlfriend, yeah, Jennifer in this movie, they talk to the camera about their experiences, and it's not like it it's literally just a device, like a narration for the movie. It's not like oh, they were doing an article or something. They're talking about their experience in Rio. No, it's just an odd
It's
thing for
really
this
odd.
movie.
it's a really odd choice because it doesn't have any payoff, or they don't explain why it's done like that. Or, I thought it'd be
Yeah.
something like they're in therapy, or maybe he's getting interviewed by police or something, but
Yeah.
they never show like why he was doing that. And even at the end of the movie, Michael Caine ends up doing this really big like epilogue dump where it was just like, oh yes, so I got back together with my wife and we were somewhat happy afterwards, not really. And then Victor got back together with his wife, and he said that was the biggest mistake I ever made because she just was gonna divorce me again and take the other half she took or whatever. And
And then I clapped and laughed. It was so funny. Women, right? Right.
yeah, it's like I said, it's not a fun movie. I mean, despite all the gross material and like the morally it being a morally wrong movie, it's just not a very good movie, and it's just not funny
Yeah.
in the slightest. And it's not a fun watch. I personally would not, I tell you not to watch it because it's just it, you'll I mean even taking all that stuff out, it's kind of a boring movie.
Yeah, it's a boring movie. It's overly long. But like the thing is I think movies about taboo subjects can be funny and fun
Yeah.
if they're handled well. And then when you have a movie like this, which is about something taboo, but plays it weird, isn't funny, is kind of boring. It makes it so like the moral problems with it are more of an issue versus like something that actually handles it well. I guess what I'm getting at is like a taboo subject really needs a delicate hand to make that work. This movie did not have that.
No. And which is surprising considering the talent behind the director, but
Yeah, he made some classics, but I'm guessing it was maybe old age or something. I don't know.
I don't know. But it was very much just not a very good final movie to end on. And
Mhm.
I do blame it on Rio.
It,
So
wow, really? I would too. They went to Brazil and they were like, we just want to make a movie about nudity, and then boom, they just did it.
and they
And
did.
they got back to America and they were like, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that.
Well, anyway, we both give it a not recommend, but we're gonna end it for this week. But Nathan, what are we going to talk about next week?
All right, so next week we are back at it again with Dirty Gamera. I think that's what we're gonna call it. We've been trying to figure that one out, and you said that right, and you said Dirty Gamera. I like it. And we're gonna be talking about the Dirty Harry movie, The Enforcer. But Ryan, what are we gonna be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we are going to go back into Gamera and we're going to be going back to the 90s once again with Gamera 3 from 1999, which is free on Tubi right now.
Awesome, I'm
But
excited.
yes, but if you have any thoughts and opinions, please feel free to email us at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to go to YouTube and check out our YouTube channel at Drive and Double Feature Podcast. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast. But blame it on the podcast next time.
Until next time.